Draft Maniacs, it's draft day, baby. How
Draft
we
day.
doing? Draft day. I'm your host today, Tyler Rucker. I'm with the one and only Mr. Tyler Metcalf. Metcalf, how we feeling? It's Christmas morning.
It's the best. I love this day so much. And starting last year, now we get two of these. Obviously today's the granddaddy of them all. Excited for the chaos. New mock draft up on the site, and it was a late night. It was a very late night, and but it was fun. I'm so excited for tonight.
Yeah, shout out to the whole team. We were putting together the mock pretty late last night. Got a very late incoming call of intel, and we kind of basically had to be like, okay, all hands on deck. Let's talk this out. So it was fun. The new mock, what we're hearing, is kind of up on the site. Obviously, we tried to put some names that we've been hearing connected with each pick. So go check that out. NoCeilingsNBA.com. But Metcalf, I just wanted to do this episode and pretty much just have fun with some fans. If you guys are going to be in on the comment or in the YouTube, comment, let us know, ask us some questions. We'll try to fire off. We're going to try to share some intel that we've been hearing, just kind of talk about what's going on right now. And then, I don't know. You know what it was? It was like, hey, I'm either going to be just watching film or I'd rather be talking on YouTube with the fans. Yeah. So let's have some fun. So Metcalf, I don't know where you want to start. How are you feeling about tonight? What are you puzzled about? I love getting intel. It's the greatest thing in the world. I'm addicted to it, I think. But then you get too much. Yeah, I do have a problem. But then you get too much where you start going, oh gosh, which one do I want to lean on? So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game, but it's fun.
Yeah. And again, everyone, the mock that went up today over at NoCeilingsNBA.com, go subscribe while you're there. That's a prediction intel mock. That's not necessarily what we would do. So if you hate a pick, if you're like, oh my God, this guy's going way too early, that's some of the intel we're getting. If you're like, oh my God, these guys hate player X, they have him falling so far, that's just some of the intel we're getting. So it's not necessarily to say that it's for sure going to happen. And there are probably going to be trades that one trade skews everything. One pick skews everything. But based on right now and based on last night, that's kind of what we're hearing, at least general ballpark with guys. So I think there's still a good amount of chaos in store tonight. And I'm excited. It should be a fun one.
Yeah, if anyone ever sees me on my phone, I promise it's for good reasons. I don't know where to start. It's going to get a little crazy. So what are you thinking?
I'll
be looking for comments.
Yeah, and do you want to just rattle off some questions? Or do you want to save those for later? Let questions build up in the chat. We can run through the mock. We can talk storylines, potential fallers, risers, whatever you're feeling.
Let's talk about fallers and risers, right? Let's start this off. Or we can go pick by pick if you want to just kind of talk about what we're thinking. We got a lot of comments already, as I should expect. But I don't want to go hey, let's start questions, then bounce around. So maybe we can fire stuff up right off the bat. I'm just too excited. Okay, let's just get some questions going. All right. Shout out to Alex. He said, what's up to Tyler? Love y'all's work. Any reason why Ace isn't on the intel mock for the Wizards? Meanwhile, Gavoni has him going there. Do you think it's a smoke screen? So this is where things get cooking, folks.
I think the Wizards would love Ace, and I think Ace is trying to potentially steer himself there, but we had him go earlier.
I had heard that here's the thing I need to tell everyone with intel. It's you try to pile on. So you're getting some each day and you're trying to connect it. It's almost you're also making a story. So there's stuff that gets leaked into the media and then that comes out and everyone's like, is this true? Is this smoke? So there was rumblings that hey, Ace prefers the East Coast team. Then you check in on that. You hear that it's got some truth to it. And then everyone's like, oh, he's trying to steer his way to Brooklyn. Now, there was some rumblings, don't shoot the messenger, that teams thought that and then they started to pivot. We might think it's Washington. But I also have heard that he might not make it there. So it's going to get a little interesting. I think if he's there, definitely makes sense. Yeah. I think I would be shocked if he falls past Washington.
I would be shocked there.
A lot still think he's going top 5. So we're just connecting dots. I still think, and there was a lot of reports that Ace doesn't want to go to Utah, and the rebuttal is, I think that front office doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like, I think that front office is like, we don't care if we love you, we're going to draft you if we think that highly of you. So this is a guy, Metcalf, we were talking about before this whole fiasco. Like, we were like, this is a top 3 guy, maybe top 4. So now it's like, if you're getting him at 5, seems understandable. But I think everyone's confused about 5 because Fears has been mentioned there. Trey Johnson's been mentioned there. If it's not Ace, things get interesting. If it is Ace, things really get interesting in a hurry.
Yeah, and if we're talking about the Jazz still at 5, it would floor me if it's not one of Ace, Fears, or Trey.
Yep.
Any deviation from that would be really surprising, unless obviously they somehow trade up to 2 and take Harper or something like that. I don't think that's in the cards. Not prediction. Don't aggregate that. But I think those are the 3, and kind of based on some of the late rumblings, it feels like it's going to be Ace or Fears. And then if it's not, or regardless of who it is out of those 3, this is one of the big things we kind of struggled with in the mock last night. It's like, all right, then where are the other 2 falling? And it can get pretty messy pretty quick. And again, that's all it takes is one team. And then if we're looking at fit or what makes sense, it starts to get a little murky.
And this is going, this is going off of like, hey, Con goes 4. And we have heard it's going to be chalk with VJ 3, Con 4. Now, if it's not Con at 4.
But that's still with Charlotte wanting VJ.
There you go. So I think Charlotte wants VJ. If he goes 3, it's Con. If for some reason it's a curveball and Trey is at 4, then I think Con's a real contender at 5.
Okay, let's get crazy here. And
it gets ugly. So that's what everyone. Yes,
sticking with Charlotte. So let's top 3: Flag, Harper, VJ.
Yep.
Cool. Now we're at 4. Charlotte's like, all right, we're gonna take Con, but Brooklyn's on the phone. They're offering 8, 19, and 26.
Making up trades. Don't.
Yeah, this is pure speculation.
Pure fun.
But like, if you're the Hornets at 4, does it make sense to trade back to 8, where you could get? And let's say Brooklyn's trading up to get Ace. So then at 8, you would have one of Con, Trey, Malawach, Queen, Fears, Noah, one of those guys available. Or do you think the value of Con is just too much to trade back on?
If I was Charlotte at 4 and it goes chalk, which is VJ at 3, they should be calling every single team. They should be ringing the dinner bell. If you feel good about all those guys, they should be. I think they should be calling Washington. They should try to come back to say. They should say, who's your guy? Who do you want? Come get him. I mean, I think there's even some buzz of like they might just take Trey and be like, who wants him? Come get him. Pay the price. But I think Charlotte also is a position. Okay. If you love your guy, to draft him.
So then, if you're Charlotte, is that Nets package of 8, 19, 26, and or 27? More appealing than Wizards for 6 and 18. I think I lean towards the Wizards package there, because then you're only dropping 2 spots and you're guaranteeing one of Trey or Con there.
Yeah, and I think Washington would want to hold on to 18. So, and they made all those trades at the deadline to get all these future picks and assets. So they might be like, hey, no, we'll give you 6 and 2 seconds, or a future first, or a future first and some sweeteners. I don't know, but I still think Charlotte, you want to be able to be comfortable dropping back and being like, okay, we still feel good about, we like 3 guys, 2 of them maybe are going to be there. So I don't know if they're going to do it. I also think Charlotte just might be like, we love him, we're taking him. Mm-hmm. Whoever's there, we're taking him. We're good.
And if they're just like, fuck it, let's go Ace, also wouldn't totally shock. I would be a little surprised, but I wouldn't be like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I still, just from everything I've heard, I still think it's going to be VJ or Con.
Yeah, agreed.
And then I think Trey's that you cannot ignore Trey.
Yeah,
as a wild card here. So, but Ace would just be like, oh, fire up, folks, let's go. Here we go. So, that's a good one. Okay, but Washington, I think Ace. I've heard Fears. I've heard Malawach.
Mm-hmm.
And then you at one point you hear Queen, but I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a second. Let's see what we got here. Spurs at 14. Who should they take?
I don't think I think they should take Cedric Howard if he's there. I think they need shooting. I also don't really think they're going to keep this pick.
It's a little bit of an interesting one. I've heard Coward, heard Beringer. His range is like right around their teens. I think Berenger's been like Atlanta, San Antonio, Memphis, like kind of all in that range. I know the Spurs like Ugo. I don't think it would be at 14. So if they do trade back, maybe that's someone they could be targeting. I think Coward makes a ton of sense there. And it'd be if you could leave the draft with Dylan Harper and Cedric Howard, backflips.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a haul. So I think that's a good one. I don't know if Beringer will be there, but maybe Beringer is in the conversation.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of getting vibes from last year's draft where they just traded out of that pick entirely and just walked away with the 1 first rounder. It won't shock me if they do something similar with someone in the late teens or 20s trying to move up to grab a specific guy.
Completely agree. Let's see. Any signs of a Celtics trade up, or you guys think they stay at 28 and 32? No. I got embarrassed. I asked the scout. I got embarrassed. I said, "Hey, I'm embarrassed to have to ask you this, but there was a late rumor, and then I got an emphatic no. It's not happening."
Okay, but what if?
But what if
there's some rumblings that Anthony Simons could be rerouted?
Now that's one that's getting a little buzz right now. I haven't asked about that, but the Simons thing, it makes sense for both. It makes sense if they're dangling of like, hey, could we get up here? Like, what do we do? I haven't heard that yet. Some people are talking about speculating, so I don't know.
But how high would that
get you?
Anthony Simons on an expiring contract. If you're the Raptors, does that intrigue you? If you're the Suns, does that intrigue you?
The Suns, because they just want to play all shooting guards, so that makes a ton of sense. No, but like I think
he's been playing point for Portland.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Mostly.
Like I mean, you get to the teams like Atlanta, probably no. San Antonio at 14, no. No. OKC, no. Memphis, no.
No, but I also don't think you're trading Anthony Simons to get into the mid-teens. So, like, does Simons...
Miami?
If you're Brooklyn and you just hate who's there at 8, does plus picks or whatever else goes into it? Because they have... I think they still have plenty of cap room to absorb stuff. I don't know. I don't think I would be surprised if the Celtics can really trade up into like a high quality lottery pick.
I think they're going to stay put, and I've heard Kalkbrenner, Penda, and Rasheer Fleming.
Yeah,
are names in conversation. Penda seems like it's getting a little bit of steam, but Kalkbrenner can make some sense. I think Kalkbrenner they like him, but where? So, like, it's one of those where, like, the Suns also have some Kalkbrenner buzz. So, if you're Boston, do you have to take him at 28 because you're nervous the Suns are going to take him at 29? Or do you roll the dice on he's going to be there at 32? I don't know. So, it's going to be interesting. I think they're going to try to take both picks. I think you got to. So, I'm trying to give some good ones. We got a lot of questions about Jaor.
Yeah.
Got a lot of questions about Jaor, and I had a feeling. Some late heat, folks. So let's connect the dots here. All of a sudden, Jaor's climbing in some other of the big boy mocks, and Atlanta's been a name mentioned a lot. There's a lot of buzz about Brooklyn. A lot of buzz. Now at 8, potentially. Maybe a little move. I don't know. Potentially. Like, there's a lot of rumbling, but there is a lot of late buzz for Jaor. I still am in like, hey, prove it. But
yeah,
you always take notice when you get late buzz this quick to the draft, because it's like, I don't think Brooklyn's putting Jaor at 8 buzz to send a smoke screen. Heard they done a lot of homework on him, and we're going to see what's going on. But like, that's where things get interesting, Metcalf, because I think for a long time, like a lot of us thought Fears, that might have been the floor for him, was 8 to Brooklyn. We even thought, hey, could Fears be going 5? And if it is Fears going down, if it's New Orleans at 7, goes Malawatch. And Fears is at 8, and it's not Fears. You start looking around like, where? I still think 10 would be really hard for Phoenix to pass up that type of upside, and they need a point guard. I think that's his floor. What are your thoughts, though?
And I think if he gets to 10, I think, and he makes a ton of sense in Phoenix. Carter Bryant makes a ton of sense. Johan Berenger makes a ton of sense, and they just need players. So I think I still think there's a really, really good shot that Fears goes 5 to Utah. But if he doesn't, I think Washington and New Orleans are strong candidates, but it's like 50-50 with a couple other guys. And if someone's falling, it's probably going to be him and Queen. And that fall could be really steep and really aggressive and really quick, where it gets to the point of almost like a Jared McCain from last year of like, what the hell is happening? Why is this guy now out of the lottery? The kid can play. And then a team's going to get really lucky, at least in my opinion. So everything I've heard is Fears is going to go top 10, that he's a top 10 prospect. He's got top 10 upside. So I do think he could be one of these guys where if he starts falling, obviously teams are going to do their homework and be like, all right, wait, is anyone actually interested in trading up for him? And if there are a couple teams in like those early teens, then maybe someone's going to jump all the way up to that 10, 11, 12 range and be like, all right, nope, we're going to go get our guy. So it won't shock me if he starts to fall, but I struggle to see it lasting as long as some of, our mocks our previous mocks have had him tumble into like the late teens. I don't see that happening at all.
Yeah. The Fears one's weird. Couple Jaor questions like, hey, would you be surprised if he fell out of the lottery? I wouldn't be surprised if anyone falls.
Yeah.
I'm at that point. Like, the intel you're getting is
it's like the top 7 or 8-ish names feel really, really locked in. And then that 9 through 15 is going to be chaos.
Last week, I got told 9 through 14 is going to be an absolute madhouse. It checks it. A week later, it's still checking out. Like, it is still complete checking out. At one point, it was like, I've heard 11 names from 9 to 14. I was like, that doesn't, we've said this on other pods, and it's still the same. You hear so many names getting up into that conversation. Berenger's now up there. Jaor is now back up there. It wouldn't surprise, and we always see guys just slip. They come down the board. I've heard like 6 guys that are like, the range starts at 12 to 23. And it's like, what the heck? We have to narrow this down a little bit. So it's just really wide. It's kind of a fun, chaotic year, because it's like, man, like a lot of teams like these guys, and I'm like, I get if you love him at 13. I also get if you're pumped if you somehow can get him at 20. Let's talk about Derek Queen.
Let's.
So, I think we can have a little bit of a fall. He's mentioned so many places, but the defense is a legit concern. And now, shout out our friend Jonathan Wasserman put out a mock. He had him going 17. We had him falling to 18. Now, we don't project trades. So I think if Queen was falling, someone would go get him. He's been mentioned as high as, Metcalf? 7-ish, 8. I feel like 7, 8.
Yeah, and we've heard him
10.
Potentially linked with Washington. Like I believe, or I know he's worked out with teams in like that 6 to 14 range.
Yes.
Not
Atlanta.
Now the tricky part is that some of those teams also have later first round picks, like a Washington and Brooklyn. Sorry.
No,
So
it's okay. It's time of the year. It's like hopeful.
so
It's
if he
intense. I was like,
starts
ooh.
to fall a little bit, I think there are some other more intriguing bigs that have had better workouts, have had a better pre-draft cycle, that teams might be a little more comfortable swinging on. So it wouldn't shock me if New Orleans pulled the trigger on at 7, wouldn't shock me. But kind of like that same conversation we're having with Fears, those are the two names, based on what I've heard, that feel like they could fall. Like if they don't go in a couple spots, there could be a pretty aggressive fall. Now with Queen, Phoenix kind of makes some sense if it's like a hey F it type of swing. Chicago makes some sense, but if they've had some reporters who didn't seem as enthused or encouraged about that potential link. I don't think he's a Thunder type of player. Maybe the Grizzlies. I don't know. It just gets really tricky with him.
Yeah, and our specific question, shout out Easy, was like to the Bulls. I think there's a lot of names there. One of my favorite comments I got of the whole intel gathering process was everyone's camp thinks they're going to Chicago.
Yeah.
And the name I've heard is, I think Kasparis really has a shot there. Everyone's going to make the Lithuania connections, but it's like, I think there's a real shot there. I think we've heard Murray Boyles. I think we've heard Beringer is one to look out for. I said Murray Boyles, who I'm missing. Carter, I think his floor is Atlanta. Someone else asked about Carter Bryant, like, could he make it to 14? And I'm like, I think the floor is Atlanta is what I've been hearing. So there's a lot of buzz about Carter. There's a lot of guys that are like, hey, they could go 10 to 18. Like Neat Clifford and Cedric Howard. Everyone's buzzing about those. Like fans ask us all the time about Neat and Cedric. I've heard they basically have the same range. It's kind of like the playoff team run in that teens. Like I think it starts at Spurs with a lot of those, with both of those guys, and then you kind of get to like the 19-ish range or 20s maybe. So, but I going back to like the Queen and Fears stuff. If you're a fan and you're having fun today, and I'm gonna make 45 mocks before this draft starts, like you can figure it out. Like it's pretty easy if you throw a couple names in there that we're not considering before. All of a sudden, you're like, where does this guy go?
Yeah.
We got to a point last night where we're like, is Trey going to be on the board at 10? Like, no way. And then we're like, they're not, what would they do? Like, just play only shooting guards, the whole roster? So it gets a little wacky.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. If you're getting Ace up there, if you buy the Jaor stuff, like, sure, the Jaor thing could be a smoke screen and Fears goes 8, but it's still then like, okay, where's Queen going? So I just think tonight could be some fireworks. Like there could be names going over. I heard Danny Wolf could go very early, or he could go in the 20s. Like I've heard that out the whole cycle. What am I missing?
Handful of people in the chat asking about 76ers pick, if that VJ, how confident we feel about that, or is it just a smoke screen? I think if they can't get someone to meet their price for the pick, which I believe is pretty high, it feels like VJ. I think fit, type of player, upside. I think he checks all the boxes. And then a bunch of Hornets fans also asking about their pick. We're pretty confident that's going to be Khan if they stick there. I think they're trying to trade back and get a bunch. I think they're probably trying to get Washington or Brooklyn to trade up and then swap their first rounder and probably pick up another one. But if they can't do that, we're pretty confident in Khan with a potential for Trey, right?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't heard have you heard they're trying to trade back exactly? Or we're just thinking like, hey, they would
I don't remember where, but I've seen some of that.
I think everyone's looking at Charlotte. They're starting it. That's where the party starts. I think if you looked at Philly, I've been watching. I love monitoring the odds in Vegas. Shout out to Dylan. congratulations on the title. If you watch the odds and you're a psychopath like me, I've been watching that 3, 4, 5 odds since last week because I want to see how they move each day. VJ was like plus 100, and he's now minus 600 to go third. Now, for gambling people that are just starting out, plus 100, like plus 150 would be like you bet $100, you win 150. Minus 600, you have to bet 600 to win $100. So that's a big swing. Now we've seen, Jabari Smith was a heavy favorite in Vegas. All of a sudden, and 2 hours before with a Shams promotion at FanDuel, we got Paulo swinging the odds. So things can change, but it just seems every single time I've asked someone, they're like VJ3. It's like the quick VJ3.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Next. So, and now it's getting to VJ3 Con 4. Okay. Yeah. Next. Moving on. So I think the party starts in Utah, which is an amazing sentence to say out loud. And then
as it always does.
Yeah, as it always does. And then Washington at 6, I think really gets we're all going to be on the edge of our seat. Like, okay. But it's fun because I had the guts to send a text this morning, like, hey, hear anything new? And the guy was like, man, no one's talking to anyone today. Yeah. Like, unless you're trying to talk trades, like no one's sharing any dirt today. Like everyone's quiet. Yeah, all that happened yesterday. So, okay, what else? I'll look at some Queen. Would you be surprised if Wolf goes before Queen?
Yes and no.
Like both?
Yeah. I'm not going to be able to provide a satisfactory answer on that just because I'm sure there are a bunch of teams who have Wolf over Queen. I know there are some teams that are more confident in Wolf's improvement areas than in Queen's. But if you're looking but Queen is by far the bigger upside, swing.
Wolf had a very, very, very strong workout with the team in the lottery. That's all I will say.
Yeah,
so
I think he's had a couple of those.
So I feel like the Wolf buzz has been intriguing, but it's also like, okay, well, you can love a guy, but does that mean you're going to swing early? Like, it's going to be interesting. Is it crazy to say there's no way Ugo falls below 21? He's tough. Kind of brought it up earlier. I had heard San Antonio's very, very big fans. There's a lot of teams that are very big fans. It's just where do you take them? And I think teams probably are realistic of being like, well, if we love them, maybe we could get back to the late teens. Can we get to 20-ish?
He does feel like a team's like second first round pick.
Yes.
Where he
seems like he makes a lot of sense for Brooklyn. If I was Brooklyn, I would draft him.
Yeah. Brooklyn, Utah, OKC. Those have kind of been
to get 19. If I was Brooklyn, I'd draft him and just say, screw it. We got him. But I also don't this is no intel. Do you buy Brooklyn taking 5 guys?
No chance.
I don't either. So you got to navigate. And Brooklyn might be also saying, look, we are connecting the dots and think someone's going to climb. Maybe we can try to get up and be aggressive and package one of these. Like maybe they love Queen and they're like, maybe we could get Queen if he falls a little bit and we can jump up early teens. I don't know. But drafting 5 guys is always like, really? Are you sure you're going to do that? Like,
they could.
On 2K, yes.
They have the space for it, but no, I would be shocked.
Shout out to everyone in the chat. These are awesome. A lot of comments. Okay. Some comments I'm not going to touch, guys. I'm sorry. Buzz around Phoenix attend. There's a lot of names.
Yeah, I've heard, oh, they need a point guard, and oh, they need a big. It's like, nah, they're going wing. It's like, cool. So we have the whole positional spectrum covered. Love that. I've heard some Carter Bryant potential. I've heard some
Murray Boyles.
Yeah, Murray Boyles is the other.
Queen. I've heard Noah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be there.
I don't think he's going to be there, but I heard that name. Oh, I was like, ooh, okay, Noah. That's a fun one. So Asa Newell, feel like he's got a crazy range. Where do you think he's going to end up? This is a wild one. This one's keeping me up a little bit. I've heard Asa had some really good workouts.
Mm-hmm.
I'd heard Atlanta really liked them before they traded that pick.
Yeah,
like they were dreaming. 22. They were dreaming he was 23. There, and they were going to be pumped out of their mind. I still
22.
hear some Atlanta buzz there. So I think that's the name we put down on the No Ceilings mock of like, hey, Asa's in conversation here. The problem is you hear something, and then you hear a different side of it, and you're like, okay, which one we going here? Roll the dice. So I think Asa is just one to keep in mind for Atlanta. I also just think he could be he could go a lot of places. I feel like Chicago is maybe a name.
Yeah,
might have cooled.
It was like a month ago.
Yeah,
but again, it's tough with Chicago because it's literally everybody.
Everyone's convinced they're going there. So Ace is a little bit of a wild card that I'm trying to pencil in because I think it just takes one team.
I think we had him going to the Pelicans at 23. It sounded like he had a really, really good workout with them. But it's kind of tricky because like you hear awesome workout with Pelicans, Hawks. It's like, oh, those teams are picking at 7 and 13, and that's like, oh, well, also at in the 20s. So it's like there's a very, very wide range. Also, shout out to Maddox Milton with the super chat.
Oh, Maddox, what a guy!
Love the show. Thinking about betting a good amount of money for Noah to the Raptors. What do you think? Keep grinding. By the best.
No, Maddox is gonna hunt me down if you're wrong. I feel good about it. I feel good about
it. We are not providing financial or gambling advice.
Please gamble responsibly. I feel good about Noah there.
All those disclaimers.
His interview was hilarious. He just kept referencing Raptors players. He's worked out for one team is what I've been told. I like it there a lot. There's been some smoke around Toronto and Malawatch. I've been told not to buy it. I was also told at one point maybe they were trying to go up or go back and get Danny Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
But the late buzz I've gotten was keep an eye on Noah there. So you're seeing it with a lot of mainstream guys. It's either an unbelievably well done smoke screen, but I think it's notable that I think Noah left the team early. His team, I think that was on good like understanding with Ulm, and I think he worked out for one team. So I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend. But again, we're not advising anyone on how to spend their money.
I'll hunt the guy down that gave me the wrong intel if it's not that, if you bet money. So I promise, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just relaying what I've heard.
All it takes is one team. Or they get overwhelmed by a trade to trade back a couple spots, and it's really tricky once you get down in that range because
everyone thinks they have zeroed in on their intel. A lot of times they're right, but then all of a sudden one team just throws the complete curveball, and it's just like everyone's like, "What the heck? You screwed us all up." Now we're just panic mode. And I talked to a GM once.
God, I did not expect that guy. Like we're going to take this guy, but somehow this guy fell into our lap.
Promises. It happens all the time. You promise a guy, and then all of a sudden the team's like, "Well, this guy's 12 on our board. We're picking 20th. We didn't think he was going to be here. We're taking him." So. I talked to a GM once about like, hey, do you like the new 2-day format? And he's like, no, I hate it because it takes all the chaos out. And if you have your stuff together, you should be able to kick some butt during this. But now people can regroup. So I think that's the perfect point of, we think this is what we're hearing, but one pick is a wrench in the whole process. What else we got here? Shout out again, Maddox. That was great. Anything, the Yakachonis going to Portland, especially now after the Simons trade. Shout out Travis Tate. I've heard Carter and Kaspar's there. Those were the names I've been connected to. Now Portland could go any direction.
Again, it wouldn't shock me if they just trade out completely.
Wouldn't shock me. Really wouldn't shock me. Ooh, here's a fun one, Metcalf. Shout out Mikey. Who do you think the NBA is higher on compared to the analyst community?
Ooh, probably first one that comes to mind is Nolan Traore. Hugo Gonzalez. Sorry to just go international, guys.
No, I was gonna say Berenger.
Common theme.
I think Berenger is probably the first one. There's still some Nolan fans. I think there's still some strong Hugo fans. And that's also it is tough to go international. I know what you're saying because it's like easy. It's the easy route because NBA teams are sending guys over there. So yeah, they like
and
more,
they get better intel and have those relationships and see those guys longer. Who else?
Oh, you know what? McNeely.
Yeah. I was just going to say him. I had
a really good talk about McNeely last night, where I think teams are buying, hey, the tough situation. If you go back and look at his high school stuff, look what he did there. This is what Metcalf's been telling me on the pod, and I didn't want to hear it. And then someone in the team tells me it, and I was like, gosh, Metcalf, I hate you.
I say smart thing every now and then.
Yeah, smart thing. Smart guy. So I think McNeely's a little bit of a wild card because I think teams are just like, teams love to, hey, one and done guys. If they didn't have a good, we don't overreact. We don't panic. We buy, like, what did he do before that? What was the foundation before this year? That was one of my best lessons with Jaden McDaniels. I was like, man, I did not like his Washington film. And then they were like,
his Washington film was so bad.
It was terrible.
He was getting teed up at like every other possession. It was insane.
I literally got like, you need to not overreact to 1 year. I was like, okay. I went back and watched. I was like, all right, I get it.
I think just a couple kind of more deep cuts.
Yeah.
Like I think Yannick might be in that grouping too. I'm not sure where he necessarily is in the media consensus media sphere. Sion James is another one. And then guys like Jameer Watkins, Chaz Lanier.
Yeah, someone even asked about Sion. Shout out Bassini. Had him at 33. I think we had him at 33 too.
We had him going 33 to the Hornets, which feels pretty good.
Yeah,
it's about as good as an early second round prediction could feel.
Right. Rasheer Fleming falling.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's got some big fans.
Some fans. Rasheer had a workout. I was told got hurt, had to stop for a little bit, and was only able to do interviews for a while, and it just hurt. He's just a little bit of a quieter kid, so teams are, sometimes that's the tough part when you can't work out.
Yeah,
you're all in on one thing, and if you don't do good at that, and I'm not saying he was terrible. I'm just saying I've heard that it was just like, okay. But it's also just goes to the depth of this class. Like, he could slip a little bit. So I think late first is what you're thinking. Maybe one of the first names off the board day 2. I think teams, if picking early day 2, would be very ecstatic if Rasheer is still on the board. So
yeah, he would for sure be one of the first names off.
I don't love it. I think he should go earlier, but
yeah, I'd take him first.
Yeah.
We got another super chat here by
just a guy.
Appreciate both of you and the entire crew for all your hard work. Any Orlando buzz? Who do they like? Who had a good workout there?
I think they'd love if Walter Clayton was on the board, but
that does not.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I think another Florida team maybe.
Another Florida team I think really, really likes a player from Florida.
Could, with that vague description, that could be anyone.
I think Jace makes some sense there. I think probably getting some guard depth makes some sense there. That's Orlando's ones I keep trying to toy with where I'm like, well, if Jace isn't on the board, what direction could they go? But yeah.
So would a Will Riley swing surprise you?
His stock, you want to talk about some wild stock.
Yeah.
I had heard a couple days ago, like, I think I was talking about guys connected to the Spurs, and someone rattled off like 4, and then the last name was Will Riley, and I was like, hold on, just can we? Did you say something? It is just one of the biggest ranges. I feel like people are like, what with Will Riley? What? And I don't know. Maybe Orlando. Maybe that might be a swing.
Yeah. So I would view it as just because they got Desmond Bane doesn't necessarily mean they're done looking for shooting. You have to have more than one guy who can shoot. So if Walter Clayton's there, I think they would leap all over that. I don't think he will be. I think Jace Richardson makes a lot of sense along that same mold. I think Liam McNeely makes a lot of sense. What about like any bigs, like a Maxime Reynaud, Ryan Kalkbrenner?
I'm sorry. I need a sec.
Super useful. Love it when you throw.
I'm sorry. No, it's important. It's important. I need to. I feel like Shams and Adam Schefter. Is this how they feel when they're on there?
No, but they keep talking, so it's fine. But those would be kind of some of the names that I would mainly keep an eye on for Orlando. Question about fears mocking to Phoenix. I think it makes the intel I've gotten on Phoenix is that they could literally go anywhere and no one really knows what they're doing. So it's a little more of a BPA that we're pretty confident that he's going to go top 10. He could fall. He could, we talked about it earlier in the show. Him and Queen are the two most susceptible to a big fall. But it's a little mix of BPA and fit and need as well. Any Kobe Sanders intel? I believe it was like first half of the second roundish, kind of somewhere in the 40s, probably.
Yeah, it'll be an intriguing one. Heard a little
good over there.
Fears and Ace showdown at 5 is what I've heard.
Okay,
that's a fun one. I think that's going to come down
to what we've been saying.
Yeah, so we had those 2 names, but I've just reiterated. I have heard of multiple fears, and this is the fun time, folks. You get 2 different answers. It's like, gosh, dang it. So, I'll share that with you off the record. Let me get some more comments.
Yeah, I've seen a couple like with the Nets. What are they doing with all these picks? Common theme is no one really knows. They're kind of prepared for anything, but I think no one thinks they're taking all 5.
Yeah.
So
yeah, best case scenario for the Bulls. I like Bulls fans. I'm trying to help you guys.
I think Kasparis is up there in best case. I think a Thomas Sorber or Johan Berenger as well. Those would probably be my top 3.
I know, but Bulls fans might hear Berenger and be like, "Oh man, like raw." That dude plays so hard. Like that is a serious, fun upside piece I would really like. So I still like Kasparis a lot there. I think Carter Bryant would be a great get if he's somehow there. If you have him and Matas together, it would be a very fun duo to groom. I think they're going to be in a good spot to have some good stuff. Here you go, Metcalf. A little bit of a last year and this year. Just because I feel like Dillingham has some. This is a good question for you. That's why I chose it. Like this is perfect for you.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough because Rob just kept rolling his ankle, but Fear's measured in at like 6'3", right?
6'3" and change.
Yeah, so he's got like 2-ish inches on Dillingham. He's just he's a little bigger. I think he's a little more dynamic as an on-ball creator. Puts way more pressure on the rim. Plays a lot more physically. in terms of living in the paint, getting to the rim, drawing fouls, that kind of stuff. I think he's more of a true point guard, whereas Dillingham's a little more of that kind of spark plug combo guard. That there are a lot of similarities in their shiftiness and creativeness and their ability to get to different spots basically anywhere on the floor. But Fears is a little bigger, plays with more physicality at this stage. And I think the playmaking and rim pressure are better. Dillingham really struggled to stay healthy this year. Just not like major things, just like I think he rolled his ankle like 3 or 4 times this year. And then fought really hard on defense, just didn't really know what he was doing, and he's tiny. So he's definitely the better shooter compared to Fears at this point. But yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Someone said Carter Bryant's going to you, top 5. I love it. I love it. If Malawach isn't going to the Raptors at 9, where is he going? Phoenix at 10. I think he's going. Everyone is convinced he's going before 9, but it's just trying to figure out where. So, like, if he doesn't go to New Orleans, is it Brooklyn? Incredibly early in the process, I had heard Brooklyn really, really wanted him, and they didn't think he was going to make it there. I haven't heard anything similar to that since, but that was like one of the first things when I started. It was like Brooklyn really wants Malawach. Everyone wants to go to Brooklyn.
No, because they're a blank slate and they're in New York.
Because they can play. That's why everyone's camp is trying to be like, we want to get to Brooklyn. At one point, it was like Fears to Brooklyn. Makes a ton of sense because they think they can play. The coaching staff's got some good rep around the league right now. So I don't know. Oh man, we're getting some questions that are really pulling the strings right now, folks. Do you think Denny was I think Ugo's maybe a better athlete?
No.
You really like?
I did. He's like 6'9".
Yeah.
One of the fastest dudes in the
bounce,
league.
I guess, is what I meant. Like better bounce.
He's got a little more pop off the floor.
Denny's better playmaker.
Denny's a better playmaker, but that stylistically they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
In terms of what you would want, or like if you're going to get the most out of them, Denny's probably the route that you want to play Ugo in. I would look at Denny. I would look at Christian Brown. That type of archetype. I think if Hugo gets treated like Denny did in Washington, where he's used as a spot up shooter, it's not going to work. It's going to be a disaster, and hopefully he'd then be a second team guy. Otherwise, he might just end up back in Europe. But he's got to be empowered a little bit to get out in transition. If he's put in the corner, it's not going to work.
How do teams feel about Elijah Martin? I've had some teams light up about him.
Yeah, seems like floor is like early 40s.
That's my favorite sleeper.
Yeah,
I'm talking second round and sleeper guy, but I've asked some teams ask me, and
very
it's like, player. Oh, I love him. They're like, oh, I love him.
Absolute pitbull, defends like crazy, shoots a ton of threes.
I had someone say, I feel like he could be the next Lou Dort, and then he said, I'm really scared that OKC is going to take him. Like, yep.
He measured what, 6'1"?
No, bigger, I think. I think he was around 6'2" or 6'3" after putting in the fact that they play basketball in shoes. He's 6'2" and 3/4 with a 6'7.5" wingspan.
Height without shoes, 6'1.5".
I go in round up. They play basketball with shoes, folks.
Okay, yeah, but I'm going with the exact number that we were given. I'm not like, he's wearing platforms
6'2".
today.
He's basically 6'2" with a 6'7.5" wingspan. So, all right, let's see what we got. All right, Metcalf. Obviously, if you have any questions, just you want to talk about, like,
no, I'm having a blast.
Fears to Phoenix. Is this a possibility, or is this a BPA?
Yeah, talk about that one while you were ignoring me.
No, I wasn't. Oh, sorry, but yeah. I just have been told it's the floor. I'm late on the comments, so let's go. I've heard Bogey. I've heard good things.
Love Bogey.
Great kid.
Hoop Summit did wonders for his stock.
great kid. Think early second to mid-ish, early second. Either coming over right away that you kind of just look at some run, like just needs to fill out, but teams are like, oh, really good kid, like good intangibles, good character. I'm really excited to see where he ends up. I think that's a fun one.
Where did you end up having Kasparov on your board?
Jack? I haven't heard anything on Udo. I'm just being honest with you. But I'm gonna try to do some last minute digging. So Kasparov, I
had him at 8.
I have Kasparov at 9.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if he gets past Portland. If Carter's there.
I don't think he's making it out of the lottery. I think there are some teams outside of the lottery who would be thrilled if he did.
Yes.
They do not plan on that happening.
There's a lot of teams right outside the lottery that are really excited about some guys that they're like, he's not going to be there. But they really want him. And no, I'm not saying Boston wants Kasparov. That's not, no. But
maybe there's a swing on a Nolan Traore and an Asa Newell in the lottery that bumps a couple guys down.
The class is so deep at guard.
Pure speculation.
Yeah. The glass is so deep at guard. If one guy goes earlier than we're expecting, it's just going to be like one could slip. So, it's just a breadcrumb. I think he'd be at 11. Do you think the Lakers traded into the first round? I think Brooklyn's 26 or 27 picks. I think someone could be it could be for sale.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the Lakers. I haven't heard anything like that, but I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me if someone's trying to call Brooklyn to get one of those picks that maybe they aren't picking. Maybe it's what teams don't have a pick forever. And I'm not, don't everyone freak out, but like the Nuggets, teams like that, where they're like, you're either not in, Warriors, like
Cavs,
all those teams that don't have a pick, maybe they're trying to call Brooklyn and be like, hey, what would it take? Best landing spot for your Hanson Yang developmental wise.
Brooklyn.
Heard Brooklyn. Ben Sarif. What's the intel on the kid? Good intel.
Yeah.
Good
Sounds
intel.
Like he's a motherfucker out there.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Good intel. I'd still think probably 20s.
Yeah.
Mid to late 20s. Measured much better than I think teams are very intrigued. But yeah, it's been good intel. Probably less bad intel than normal this year.
Yeah. There hasn't been. It's been a pretty clean class. Like the medicals have been super clean.
Yep. Comment I got was this is one of the best medical classes one team's seen in a long time.
The worst comment about anyone we've heard is kind of like he's kind of difficult, but he just fucking loves basketball. So it's like, okay.
He's perfect.
Yeah, it's like, okay. Like I can live with that. It's not, we've heard a lot of worse things in the past, and I haven't really gotten any of that this year.
Yep. Maxime Reynaud, little all over. Heard it's a Brooklyn buzz. I know people try to connect him kind of late run to maybe like someone like Boston or Phoenix. I haven't heard those teams specifically. All I've heard was that San Antonio would do a backflip if he was somehow in the second round, but I don't think he's making it there. So obviously you can connect Victor and Reynaud, but he's another wild card where you're just like, all right, where does it end up? I know we had him at 19, but go ahead.
No, just we had him at 19 because a couple of people were pretty confident in that potential landing spot, whether that's at 19 or with one of 26, 27. Who knows? But he seems to be linked there.
We got an Boss 11. Love reading usernames. Chances Sorber goes to the Wolves at 17. Feels like his fit is great there. And then we got another comment about someone saying, "What am I missing with Sorber? I just don't see it." How dare you? No, I'm kidding. A lot of Sorber questions. How does Yves Missy compare to Thomas Sorber as well?
I would compare Missy more to Behringer.
Yeah, that's a good one. Shit, that's a good idea for the future. Okay, I'll remember that. I like Sorber a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really impressive. He couldn't work out, and I feel like he's still made noise to climb a little bit. So that's even more impressive. I've heard he's had great workouts. I'm sorry, I've heard he's had great interviews. Intel's been really great. One team told me like interview was awesome. We love the kid. I think he's teens. So that's what I've been told. So I think there's a real shot, Minnesota. I think there's even some rumblings about Memphis.
I think OKC makes some sense.
OKC makes some sense. I don't think I've heard Spurs.
No, the only big I've seen linked there is Behringer, but
I think at one point I heard Chicago, but I don't think it's that early. But I don't think they're going to swing that early on Sorber.
Yeah, I've heard more Behringer to Chicago than Sorber.
Yeah. So that's the tough part right now is you hear about 6 names last week to one team. Then all of a sudden it gets narrowed down and you're hoping it gets narrowed down to like 2. Then you hear from somebody else a name and you're like, okay, we can go with that. But feels like this year we're getting 3 and 4, and it's why tonight's going to be awesome. It's reality TV because we're like, okay. And if my intel's wrong, I get to call the guy and be like, how dare you? I would never do that. What else we got, Metcalf? What else are you feeling? What are you thinking? What are you rooting for as a Timberwolves fan at 17?
A good player.
Awesome. That's why we give him the big bucks, folks.
I would love Sorber or Behringer. Not totally convinced either will be there. If Cedric Howard falls, I would love that. If Yakashonis somehow falls there, I'd love that. I think Jaor is really intriguing. There are a lot of names I don't like there, but it's kind of like right at that tail end of, all right, who's going to fall? Because I feel like right around that spot is where there's a pretty big shift in how some of these guys are viewed. And, it wouldn't totally shock me if they just said fuck it and took a swing on Danny Wolf or Rasheer Fleming.
Let me see. Darth. I know I recognize that name. Phoenix worked out Coward, Traore, and Wolf. Do they take any one of them?
I could see Coward.
For how white
At
Danny
10.
Wolf is, and for someone that lives in Phoenix, I'm terrified of that man. No, I'm kidding. I love Danny Wolf, man. That would be a swing. Coward would be a really smart pick.
I think Coward makes a lot of sense at 10. My guess is the other two are more so at, they're thinking potentially a 29 or a trade back.
I think if they got Traore at 29, that's a heck of a swing. Or that's a heck of a get. That's a heck of a good value to get. I think Traore has some upside, but I think we also could look up and be like, he's going to be at worst a backup point guard for a very long time in the league if he cleans up some stuff. But I had another question of who do you think's more likely to stick? Oh, here we go. More likely to stick, Traore or Saraf? Seraph.
Probably Traore just because of the physical tools.
I would have said Seraph.
And if if Seraph's shot never improves or gets better or becomes a real thing, gets kind of tricky for those guys. But
Yep, I agree. Someone had a good one.
It also won't shock me if both of them are in Europe and 3
Just
years.
call me Andy. Ranking your top 5 big men in the draft. All right, we can do this. I like this.
Sorry, now I'll just go down my board because that's how rankings work. Malawach, are we considering Murray Boyles a big?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? The people love to talk about CMB.
Can he score outside 5 feet? No? Cool. He's a big. Sorry, that was unnecessary.
Yeah, we didn't need that.
feeling
it's draft day. It's draft day. We didn't need that.
So I got Malawach, CMB, Sorber, Wolf, Behringer.
For me, it's Sorber, CMB, Malawach, Queen, Asa, and then Wolf.
Cool.
I like Behringer, but I have him a little lower. Gosh, you guys are awesome. Shout out to the chat. This is fantastic. Any Knicks buzz? I still like Eric Dixon there.
Yeah,
that's just a really fun. Screw it, let's swing guy.
I'm between Vlad Golden and Dylan Cardwell. I'm higher on Vlad, but I like Cardwell a lot. It's not a big gap.
Yeah, I like both a lot. Any Danny Wolf, you could throw me anything and I would buy it at this point. When it talks to range, I think his range is as big as ever. This doesn't bother me as much as people are freaking out about it. I think it wasn't a big deal with the team and the player. So with Noah leaving his team to be in the draft, he wasn't playing a lot for them.
Yeah.
During the playoffs, he wasn't playing a lot. I think that was kind of a mutual thing. He also might have had a thing. Maybe I'm not reporting, but maybe he had a thing of like, hey, I have a workout. Can I go work out for the team ahead of the NBA draft? I don't know. Figure it out. Those stories are fun. They always come out right after the draft. I'm like, okay, here we go. But no, it's not a character thing. He's a great kid. Awesome comment. Sorber. How high could CMB go? Nine?
Yeah.
9.
Like if you squint, and it's like,
I think maybe.
I think 10's probably the more realistic.
I get the best comment of the whole entire stream, Metcalf. Ready? Procida, we had a Procida tweet today. He's in Utah. Right, we did. That's amore.
God, I loved him.
I have not sold a single stock. I just look at it every morning proud, and I'm like, I don't care, buddy. We're going down. My knight in shining armor. Antonio, we got a super chat. My guy, let's get this one up. What do we got? Am I crazy if I think Liam McNeely should be a locked top 20 pick in this draft? I feel like nobody's talking about him. Any rumors on his landing spot? Man, he's one. Metcalf, I've heard Miami.
Yeah.
I feel like I heard teams ahead.
I think a couple weeks ago, Miami really, really liked him. Seems like they're steering a little more towards Walter Clayton now. But I really think he's just one of these guys that makes sense basically anywhere. He's a big shooter. I know he didn't shoot this year, but he also had an ankle injury and was having to basically play point guard for that UConn team. So he was playing out of position. He was the guy. He's not going to be the guy in the NBA, but when he's the third or fourth guy and more in that Cam Johnson type of role, I think there's some really fun upside with him as just a winning player.
I think Memphis, maybe Washington, Brooklyn, Miami. I think OKC is going to trade out at 24. Unless they have a guy there that they love. But I think McNeely's pretty all over the place. It just teams seemed a little bit more like we watched him before. We know he can play.
Yeah.
He just had a tough year. And if you looked at his splits before he got hurt, he was rolling. Metcalf was spot on that. What else we got here, Metcalf? Couple
Um,
more,
yeah,
or
yeah.
are you just
Let's just do a couple more and then wrap up.
Yeah. Who's the next Andrew Nimhart? Undersized, not huge production, but a playoff dog. I think Elijah Martin.
And I've been comparing Kasparis to Nemhard, but
undersized.
he's going to go top 10. Is Andrew
Yeah.
Nemhard undersized?
I don't know. I think Nimhart was like 6'2".
I don't think he's that small.
6'3".
I don't know. He plays big. Don't mind me.
The funniest answer is his brother.
6'3" without shoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his brother was a better player at this point.
I got told.
God, I loved him on that Montverde team.
I got literally told by
so much fun.
Someone in the league said the Montverde coach just thought he's better than Andrew.
Yeah, so he was one of my favorite players on that Montverde team. But it's like, oh well, you're like 2 to 3 inches shorter than me, so that's tough.
Buzz, he might have a promise. He's
gonna get drafted.
There's buzz that if he doesn't, there's teams like foaming at the mouth for a 2-way. But I also think that there's plenty of teams that think he's a sleeper where it's like, okay, not everyone's dumb. If you all think he's a good sleeper, then probably not making out of the draft. So you can play.
Yeah, I mean, a couple guys in that second round range who might fit that description. Maybe a little Javon Small, Lamont Butler. Sorry, I know. Hold on, nose Frank. Yeah.
Let's do a couple more Metcalf, and then
let's do 2 more.
I got some stuff I gotta address. Let's see. Drake Powell stock. Little all over. I think lower than we thought. It's been a roller coaster. I think lower than we thought. It wouldn't shock me if he's the end of the first. It wouldn't shock me if he's beginning of the second or, middle of the second. I don't know. He's a little bit of a weird one. I don't buy he's going super early.
Yeah. It seems like his camp has done a good job of getting his name out there.
But. Yeah. That's a nice way to say it. I think Intel on Sam Vecini. Great guy. He's a grinder.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sam. We made it to draft season, baby. Work his butt off. We have respect for everyone that grinds their butt off in this industry. We get it. It's brutal.
We've met him a couple times in Portland at Hoop Summit, and if he's willing to make that trip, he loves this shit.
Yep. A lot of Nimhart people. I think we're good. I think we're good to stop.
Let's wrap it up.
All right, give me your talk. We're going to be talking later. We have a stream coming tonight, folks. We'll have a stream
going on half an hour before draft starts.
Half an hour before
7:30 Eastern.
We will have Kyle Boone coming on to join us. Special guest. He's pumped to come talk with us. So we'll be on that. We're going to have a day 2 stream. We're going to have breaking this now. We're going to have draft grades, a live draft grade tracker on the website.
No grades, just reactions.
No grades, just reactions. This is what I meant. Sorry. Not ABCD stuff. We're just going to have reactions.
How it works, how it could go wrong. Initial reaction.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All that kind of stuff.
The mature route. And what else am I missing? Tomorrow we will have a best remaining article. We're going to put out all of the best remaining players so you can kind of get an idea of that. What else am I missing, Metcalf? We're going to have on-screen graphics tonight that I'm making right now. I've got to figure out a way to finish them all in like 2 hours, so it's going to be really fun. Those look really good. We'll have stats. We'll have analysis. We'll be breaking down every player.
Draft guide still for sale if you procrastinated and need to catch up. NoCeilingsNBA.com. Go check it out.
Shout out to Thunder Chats. Texted us while we're on the pod. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I just got the draft guide." And I was like, "Oh, why? Did you win a title or something?" But he said, "Gosh, this is great." So it's a digital download, 100 prospects. Shout out Dylan. What else? Anything else?
YouTube, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. The growth over there has been awesome. We've got a ton of stuff. And the draft cycle is like a circle. There is no start. There is no end. It just kind of keeps going. And we're going to have stuff throughout Summer League. throughout the offseason. Maxwell will have his no stone unturned. I'll have videos and written stuff on incoming freshmen, some transfer stuff. So we got stuff going all summer. Should be a fun time.
We made it, folks. We'll see you later tonight. As Metcalf said, 7:30 Eastern. We will have our round one stream pre-draft show that rolls right into the NBA stream. You know, you love to watch it on TV, but here's what you can do. Here's an idea. Mute the TV, listen to us. We'll give you analysis about every pick, what we really think, and we'll have some fun doing it. So we're going to have plenty of fun graphics, videos, animation, whatever you want tonight. It's going to be a fun time. Our whole team will be kind of rotating on the stream, and we'll have plenty of goodies for you. So for myself, Tyler Rucker, and my co-host, Tyler Metcalf, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you soon. We're going to work the phones a little bit, see if we can pull some more strings, and draft day, baby. Unbelievable time. Thanks, guys. You have a good one.